Okay, I am with Abe and Morgan right now. They are one of our duos, and you can see how much has happened since yesterday. It's unbelievable the progress that's being made here. Something that I can point out what Abe is doing right here on the elephant, and you can see this cut through right here. Cut throughs on the bottom are more difficult than cut throughs on the top because there's so much weight up top and so much mass that you stand more chance of it collapsing when they're lower like that with all the weight. And then when we walk around the front, and we'll show you that the trunk, he's using the trunk strategically to hold up the weight on the top from the elephant's head. He's starting on the wrinkles right now. It's really cool. I like what's going on here. And you can see Morgan working on the giraffe. We're going to go take a walk around at the other side and get a different angle of the giraffe. But before we go over there, though, I want to point out this right here. What they've done is this feature right here is so tall and sheer that there was nothing for Morgan to stand on from here up. So she had to take off 3 sets of forms before she even got a chance to carve on it. And so that's what this is for. They added this like a scaffolding and then anchored it to this form over here so she has somewhere to stand to reach way up to the top of the giraffe.
Go.
Okay, we walked around to the other side of the giraffe that Morgan was working on, or still is working on, and we're getting a different view of it. This is a nice view with giraffe with the elephant behind it. Placement of your elements is important in the overall conceptual and visual effect of the sculpture itself. Giraffe has a really nice positioning with his head up, and it's very pleasing to look at this sculpture so far. I like it a lot. It's fun and pleasing. Okay, I'm with Deb and Steve right now. Deb is from Saugus, Mass, and Steve is from Tiverton, Rhode Island. Yesterday we watched Steve and Deb filling the round forms, and now it makes sense because you're looking at the different elements and pretty much all of them are round. So it's kind of silly, wasteful of time, energy, and sand to make square forms or rectangular forms when you're making a round object. I'm taking a guess, and I don't like to really guess because so much changes as these go along, but it looks like this might be an artist's palette here, and maybe the fruits are representing the colors of paint on a palette. I'm not sure. We'll find out as we go along, but you can see the apple, and you see the grapes over here, and it looks like Deb's working on a banana there, and it's moving right along. Okay, we're with the Davids now. Ongeroen David is from Belgium, and David Duchamp from Canada, and together they are creating something really, really unique. Yesterday, the last time we were here, remember this is the part that they had added coming down to the side, but since then they've cut all this out in here, and look at this amazing detail. They're both known for their incredible eye for detail and making things just like wow, pop, and you can see all this sand in here had to be cut out, all this in here, and they have to establish in their head and talk between each other how, what they're going to do. You've got two amazing brains working together, and you have to have a lot of communication in the beginning process when you're both working on the same feature. For example, we saw Morgan and Abe working on two different features, and they're working on the same feature, so it has to be cohesive. They have to talk about it, plan it, agree on it, and then carry it out. And it looks like they've committed themselves at this point to something very detailed, and it will take a lot of time, but it will have an amazing effect once they've completed it. I also wanted to just point something out, that you can see this part right in here. In sand sculpting lingo, we call this blocking out. There's no detail in it, but they're just establishing where this is going to go and what the general pattern is going to be, and then they determine the detail, and now they'll carry that on throughout this feature as well. Okay, we just took a little bit of walk, not even 360 around, and I've already found another feature that is really cool. If you looked right in here where I'm pointing, they've got a cut through that. Remember the other side where I said it was all cut out? Well, now this hole right in here is meeting that cut through over on the other side. That's what I was talking about. It takes a lot of planning and cohesiveness and working together to establish these patterns and where everything's going to go. This is really cool, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of this piece.
And go.
Okay, we're with Mary Ann from Key West and Dan from St. Louis. And yesterday, look at, oh my gosh, how much they have done since yesterday. The progress in, it's just, I'll walk down the end of the wall and back. And by the time I get back to the other end, already things have progressed and changed. We have a very striking feature right here in the front. This is like, bam, powerful, right in front of you. Look at the, it's just so beautiful. Just this, oh, I don't even know what to say about it. It's so stunning. And then you have two people over here with their heads in the sand. We talked yesterday about plot management when we got to Dan and Mary Ann's plot, that everything was probably lined up for a certain purpose. And they know what it is in their heads, but they're leaving us guessing right now. I can't wait to see what happens here, Mary Ann. I really can't. Okay, so I've been talking ever since the beginning about Dan and Mary Ann's piece about the alignment of their forms and their pound-up, and how important it is in the overall conceptual and complete idea that they have going on. Well, I was walking down the wall and I happened to see this arrow right here on the wall. So I followed my instinct instructions to just stand right at that arrow and look up. So you are going to see what I see when I stand at this arrow, and it's going to make sense about the alignment of the boxes. Okay, so when you stand back about another 30 feet from Dan and Mary Ann's piece, you're on the seawall. Now, this is the view that all the spectators get. I was down in the plot, so I'm right close up to it. Back here, you can look, and if you look dead on into this sculpture, it's obviously kind of like a puzzle. I call it a puzzle sculpture, where all the pieces have to come together in the exact spot to make this all happen. So what I'm seeing now, I don't know if you're seeing it, but I see a frog. I have no idea if I'm correct or not, but I see the two bodies with their heads in the sand as possibly the legs, and this feet like a person turning into a frog, or I'm not sure, but it's definitely a visual sculpture. Something's going on. It's going to be really cool to watch this one happen. And you can see they're both working on human features back behind the main body, and then the two bodies with the heads in the sand. And I'm guessing that those heads might even end up connecting to the bodies with their heads in the sand and making even a much more complex puzzle. So this one's really intriguing and can't wait to see what happens with it. Okay, we're with Paul and Remy from Bulgaria. Now we keep saying they're from Bulgaria. They live in Bulgaria, but if you've listened to them speak in the interviews and everything, they're obviously not born and raised in Bulgaria. Remy is from Holland, the Netherlands, and Paul is from England. So here we are at Paul and Remy's piece, and you can see that they've come along really far from yesterday as well. They also have all their forms off. And that's intriguing because it's very early on in the competition to have all the forms off, but it's also a really nice comfort zone for them, because taking all your forms off and not having any collapses or any problems gives you a very comfortable feeling of, whew, okay, we did our pound up correctly, because you're never sure when you take that bottom form off if there's going to be a major stress fracture going up throughout the whole piece. So it's always a relief when that bottom form comes off and it's still standing. We did touch a little bit on cut-throughs, and I did mention that cut-throughs at the top are more difficult. Cut-throughs at the bottom are more difficult than cut-throughs at the top because of the weight that's on top of them. But this one is a little bit different because they have two. It is on the top, but it's two cut-throughs, and both cut-throughs have a lot of weight directly on top of them. So that does make that more difficult than if it were, just a very fine feature at the top with one little hole cut through it. You can see that Remy is working on a human element in the front. She's got a little reference picture there for either placement of it or body movement. You'll notice that a lot of the artists do use reference material. There's nothing wrong with that, nothing in the rules that they can't use it. It helps, when you're in a time crunch situation, sometimes to use reference. It's looking really nice. Owl feature. This is a really popular festival, and it brings in a lot of media. And as you can see, Paul is over here actually doing an interview right now with the Boston Herald. These sculptors are great. They're working on a time schedule, and they still take time out of their schedule to talk to the media and folks. You know, if they come down, they're more than happy to speak to you. I was just talking about, you know, the relief that we feel when we take those bottom forms off. Paul, what are you feeling right now?
Well, now I'm feeling a great sense of relief. But as you know, Meredith, like 5 minutes ago, I was getting torn apart inside. The anxiety, the stress. Oh, it was terrible. But now I've let it all go. Now I'm relaxed, and now we can concentrate just on sculpting this sand and making a beautiful sculpture.
If you haven't sculpted sand before, you really cannot appreciate what he's talking about. I know what he's talking about. Literally, your heart beats so hard when you're working on those nails, taking that bottom form off.
Oh God, it really is. It's a nightmare taking the forms off, but it's worth it. It's part of the discipline. We all struggle in this game, and without struggle, there's no growth. So I'm happy to struggle and to feel anxious for a few hours.
Well said, Paul. Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Thank you, Meredith.